What is up, everybody? Welcome to Sales Stories in Real Life, episode 32. I'm your host, Alex Bruschi, and this is the show where salespeople tell their stories on memorable buying experiences, times that they themselves were in the buyer's seat. Today, we've got a very special guest, one of my favorite people ever, Mr. Riley Blaisdell. He recently broke into SaaS as a major market AE at Paycor. He is here to cheer. Make sure you follow Riley on LinkedIn. Man, this is such a blast. Obviously, you've been a fan of the show and you always like to answer my phone calls with the "What's up, everybody?" So this is like a real full circle moment here. Riley, I hear you had a really, really memorable experience when you bought your first set of golf clubs. Take it away. Let's hear it. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, before we dive into the story, obviously, I want to thank you for allowing me to come here and be part of this hashtag Sell Stories IRL. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Popcorn gang, baby. Oh man, I'm pumped to be just in this space, man. But yeah, so quick dive into golf. Dark social existed in my vocabulary without me even knowing it happened. I got into golf a little over 3 years ago, and I reached out to a bunch of people that played golf. And I used to play slow pitch softball. And I said, hey, like, what set of clubs should I buy? And a couple of people were like, buy a cheap set. And one person was like, hey, man, buy some lessons. See if you like the game. If you do, I'll make an introduction to somebody. So I signed up and took a couple lessons. And I got really impatient. You know what I mean? Like, I was ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I'm hitting the ball in the range. I'm hitting that drive. And I'm like, smack it. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. So I went to a couple stores. And a couple of them were like, oh, how long have you been playing golf for? And I was like, I haven't. I just took a lesson or two. And they're like, oh, and you want to get fitted for clubs? And I was like, yep. He said, that's not how it works. So I had a couple places actually shut me down and were like, no, sorry, you can't do it. And then a couple places would like let me swing clubs, but I didn't really know what was going on. And so I reached out to my buddy that said, hey, like, you know, how are the lessons? Like we talked about how the lessons were going. And he was like, well, how are the lessons going? I said, they're going great. I said, I'm ready to go ahead and buy a set of clubs. He goes, all right, here's what you need to do. You need to go meet Ian Clark. So, okay. He goes, he's at this putts location in Tukwila, Washington. That's where you want to go and have him fit you. Tell him you're there for game improvement irons. I said, okay, cool. I'm more than happy to do it. So I go down there. I meet with Ian. We end up getting set up. And like, I felt like I knew this guy right away. That was the great part. Like, this is my guy. And we're doing like, we're testing out clubs and we're testing out different brands and stuff like that. I'm so new to the game of golf that I don't know the different brands and what matters, like what people are like hyped about certain brands. So I was like, hey, I don't want to know what brand I'm swinging. I just want to swing the clubs, and whatever works best for my game, that's what I want to go with. So we ended up doing the testing, and it came down to 2 sets. And he goes, why don't you come back in a couple days and let's make sure it's the right set? Because what's going to happen is your game is going to change on a different day. In my head, I'm like, what is this dude talking about, bro? Like, come on, bro. I'm good. I got this. So I take his advice and I come back a couple days later and we hit clubs again. And I was able to pick out the same 2 clubs, you know, the same 2 brands. And he was like, all right, man, like, here's your numbers. This is what number is giving you the best results and most distance. This is what's giving you the most consistency. And he kind of laid it out there on the table. And he goes, but you know, it's company A, company B. And it wasn't like the name of the company. And I said, okay, cool. Like, how do we decide which one's the best? He goes, you want to go off of feel. What do you feel most comfortable and confident in your hand? And I go, oh, this set right here. Like this brand, this club, when I put it in my hands, I feel like Excalibur when he takes the sword out of the stone. I'm like, you know, it just feels right. And so he was like, all right, cool. He goes, "Are you sure you don't want to go with the other set? It's going to be about $80 cheaper per club." And I was like, "No, I don't care about the money. I want to spend my money on the right stuff, not the better price stuff." Both great clubs. And so he was like, "Cool, let's get you set up." So we order my set of clubs. And I mean, I probably only had like 3 or 4 lessons. And this is like October of 2019. Um, and he finally goes like, "All right, man, like, your clubs will be in pretty soon." My clubs came in and I was super pumped. I went to the range after that and I was putting in so much more work because I owned my set of clubs and I had such a great time. And it wasn't like I had a great time because I bought the best stuff. I had a really good time because I was in love with what I was using. And so my affinity for the game of golf grew. And it was even cooler because he took the time and said, "Hey, like, why don't you come play around with me?" And he's somebody that's been golfing for a really long time. So he knows golf. And I always tell him he's like my Yoda to golf. And unpopular opinion, I've never got into Star Wars, but I know like that reference and I get it. But like that was what I would tell him. He was like, "Hey man, you're my Yoda to golf, bro." Like, so anytime I need information on golf, I lean on him.
Man, there is so much to unpack in this episode. And let me just start by saying, so lucky that we got to catch you on one of your days on the beach here. Really, really lucky that you were able to just pull up the laptop on the shore and do this with us. But man, I mean, he wasn't selling you a set of golf clubs, right? He was selling you love for the game. And that's a completely different thing. I mean, right away, as you mentioned, you had reached out to people and conventional wisdom says, "Oh, just get the cheapest set of clubs and, you could get a nicer one once you start getting more into the game." But then maybe you get a cheap set of clubs and you never fall in love with the game, right? And maybe that cheap set of clubs is actually the most expensive set of clubs ever because you use them twice and you never go play golf again. Whereas if you get a more expensive set of clubs and you have ownership of them, it's the best deal you've ever gotten. So I wanted to go all the way back to the beginning because you obviously got referred to Ian. One person told you, "Hey, don't get golf clubs, get lessons."
Yeah.
Love that. You said that Ian right away was your boy, and right away you felt like you had known him already. How was he creating that dynamic, right? Like, how was he making you feel like you guys had known each other already, even though you were just meeting for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, like, so dark social again, right, is big, right? You do your research behind the scenes before you go in. And because of Paul Moorhead, which is a really good buddy of mine, and he's the one that told me to get lessons, he made the introduction. And the person that he made the introduction to is like one of the guys out here in the Pacific Northwest that has been in the industry and has worked for that company for a really long time, to the point where this guy worked for the company, decided to leave that company. And when he left, I know sales at that location dropped because I boycotted that location because he left when he left. And then he ended up working at a different location for that organization. So, I mean, like, people buy from whom they like, right? And so when I'm talking about like how he made me feel welcome, like, I'm a hugger when I meet people. Like, I'll hug people like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, "Hey, let's hug." Like, I'll shake, I'll hug, I want to connect. And we had that immediate like connection right away. Plus, like, I'm still a 12-year-old boy. I have like that humor of a kid. So, like, my little jokes, my little witty quirks that I have, he was accepting of it all. And I felt comfortable in his hands. Like, I felt like he was Allstate. I was in good hands.
I love that. I love that. So you go into the store, you have an awesome experience. And then I thought what was interesting too is that you got fitted for your set of clubs. And instead of just saying, "Hey, you got to get this set, right?" Or "Hey, you got to buy," they said, "Hey, come back in a couple days because your game might change." And you got to use the clubs and you got to hit the range. Like, What's going through your mind as a buyer at that point in time, right? Like when you're probably expecting that you're going to have a purchase forced down your throat and someone's really encouraging you to take your time, right? And really pick out the set that's going to be best for you. What's going through your head in those moments?
I felt like kindred spirits with him because I'm not a sales rep that believes in like I want to be pushy and force you into a buying process. I want to be a person that consults and has a conversation to make sure you make the right decision for yourself, whether it's me or not, whether it's these clubs or not. And the nice thing about it, he was even like, go ahead and get fitted at other competitors of ours. Like, but I didn't have the inkling to go do it because I knew who he was. He was referred in and he was somebody that was like credible, that's been in the industry, and just the conversation and connection I built with him right away. I don't care about what somebody else is going to do. Even if they were going to be like, hey, I'll give it to you for 50% off. I'm going to spend my money with people who I like and that I value and trust. And that's what I got from him. Just that really good dude vibe. I mean, to be honest, like me and Ian have become really close since then. We're going to be golfing in March for his birthday, and we're going to play Chambers together as a foursome. And the past 3 years, and I've been only golfing for 3 years, I've played in his birthday event. And I like I said, I'm new to the game, but he and I have connected, and we have a great time golfing. Like I'm not the best golfer; he's a really good golfer, and he's really patient with me. He's kind. He's a very good mentor and role model, and a brand ambassador for the game. So like when people are like getting involved in the sport of golf, like I refer a lot of people to him. Not that he needs my referrals, because I guarantee there's a bunch of people that are doing the same thing. But this guy gets a lot of people going to him because of how he treats others. Even when I went to go buy my driver, right? So I didn't really touch on this. So when I was getting fitted, instead of buying a brand new driver, he was kind enough to be like, "Hey, I'll hook you up and I'll sell you one out of my collection, and you can end up, using that." And it was a top-notch driver, which was crazy. Like, and I didn't know like the stuff that I was using was top-notch because I didn't know the brands right away. And I would end up playing with it. And the same thing with my putter. And people would be like, "Oh, you got a Scotty Cameron putter?" That was my first putter. Having a Scotty Cameron is like driving a Rolls Royce for your first car. Like, didn't know that, but what goes around comes around. And because I got a really good deal on my first driver and putter, when somebody I knew that was getting into the game, they were playing like a garage sales set that they found, and they're a great athlete. And because I felt bad for them, or I shouldn't say bad for them, because I knew that there's going to be more frustration learning this game, I want to make it as easy as possible. And the way I can make it easy as possible is by equipping them with the right tools. And when I gave them the right tools to play with, I traded my Scotty Cameron putter for a set of irons. I gave him those irons. I already had another Scotty Cameron that I ended up swapping out to, but I had a backup, but I traded it out because I wanted to keep passing that on, pay it forward.
Man, that's like, that's creating an evangelist instead of creating a transaction, right? Like instead of making a one-time sale and you maybe never go back and you maybe never fall in love with golf. I mean, you're going back, you're playing with him on your birthday, you're sending him more referrals, which I'm sure are still buying from him. The guy sold you a club out of his personal set for a great deal. Like you said, the Rolls Royce of putters. I mean, that's how you make a huge impact as a seller. So man, this is like such a good story. When you were talking to me about this pre-show, I was so excited to talk about this. So, I mean, let's go back to one thing, because I know we have some other stuff that we want to talk about. How do you kind of take this into your daily role at Paycor, right? Like, how do you take these kind of same principles that Ian passed along to you, and how do you bring them across to your prospects at Paycor?
You know, so I've been selling for a long time. I shared a post about how I started selling when I was a kid. My last role, I was selling B2B sales of disposable gloves for over 9 years. and I was selling wholesale distribution, teaching sales team how to go to market strategy with our product line, which disposable gloves. You would think that there's not much to it, but there's a lot to it, and how to sell that product line, especially a commodity item. People are racing to the bottom, and having a conversation to make sure that they're making the right decision for their organization is where it's at. So my whole process has always been that same method, is like, I don't want to sell you anything. I just want to have a conversation. And amongst that conversation, do we agree that this is the right fit or right solution for you or not? Is the timing also right for you or not? And the reason why I really wanted to get into golf is because my last role, I would go to these trade shows and I'd go to these events and they would play golf, but I would never participate because I didn't know how to play golf. So I wanted to learn. That was another thing that I found very valuable, because I wanted to learn how to play golf. He was willing to also help teach me and show me the rules of the game alongside with the other coaches that I put into place. So like when I look at this as like, as far as like a seller standpoint, investing in a coach is huge. Finding the right people, the ideal candidate, is huge. Selling to people in the right sales cycle, whether it's too early for their organization or too late, that's huge. Timing is very important. Another thing that I find very valuable that that you need to do when you're selling out there is just have a conversation and connect with people and see if it really is the right decision to move forward for them, and arming them with the right equipment or tools. And when I talk about the right equipment or tools, I'm going to go ahead and drop love for Lavender, because I'm so pumped. Like, our company has a really great like set of tech and stack, like tech stack or whatever you call it, that we get to use, like tools at our disposal. But using Lavender AI is phenomenal. Like, it gives me more confidence when I send out that email, so I can make sure I'm having that conversation land in the email box and they see the tonality of the message and they don't feel like I'm trying to sell to them. They feel like there's a conversation that's happening. So whether you're selling, whether you're doing something in life, use the right equipment, use the right product. And, I'm going to go ahead and drop something for you guys. When you're using the right product and you're looking for like payroll and human capital management systems, you need to talk to us at Paycor.
Reach out to Riley. You know that you will have a conversation about what's actually best for your business instead of just having something jammed down your throat. And I love how you said it, because that's what it is. It's a conversation. It's not two people talking at each other. It's not a salesperson talking at someone and the other person just saying yes, just to pray that you get off the phone, and then they're not going to answer your calls or your emails again. You're having a conversation because you're two equal peers, right? And you both have the common goal in mind, which is we need the business to solve this problem. So I love that. I didn't get you prepped for this, but I feel like we're going down the path anyway, so we might as well keep going. You obviously were selling disposable gloves for some time. You had some other sales jobs prior to that, and you just broke into SaaS in a huge way. You've made enormous splashes. So why don't you maybe take a couple minutes and talk on, maybe to someone who's listening and wants to get into tech, what kind of advice you'd give, or for someone who's in a non-tech role and maybe they're thinking about getting tech, or maybe someone who is in a non-tech role and wants to stay in their role, right? Like what they could kind of do to build off of your experiences. What would you say there?
Oh man, this is what I'm really passionate about. So read a book called When to Jump by Mike Lewis. That's one thing I recommend people to do. If you want to get into a different industry, it doesn't have to be tech. It could be whatever you want to get into, right? And you got to realize like your skills are transferable. One of the roadblocks that I heard from a lot of companies was like, you don't have SaaS background. Like, I'm like, but I got a lot of experience in selling and I built a large book of business. I was very successful and very productive, right? So what I encourage people to do is go to companies like Aspireship, Bravado Sales. Those are places that you can learn the lingo. I tell people that Aspireship is the Duolingo of SaaS, because you have to speak the language in order to make it resonate with them. You can tell me a story, but if I don't understand your analogy or the words that you're using, it is not going to land and resonate with somebody. So I encourage people to look at Aspireship, Rafado Sales, Trainyo, lots of places out there that are willing to help give you the education to be able to land your next role. Now, once you do that, I encourage people to start showing up on LinkedIn, or actually even before that, show up on LinkedIn. Start finding the people that are having the conversations in the chats, in the posts, in the comments section, and start engaging and start showing up and provide value. Don't, oh, this is a great post. If you're going to say that, tell me why it's a great post. Let me know that you actually read it. You know, Samantha McKenna, show me you know me, the Beyonce of LinkedIn, right? Man, I was lucky enough to go through one of her courses and actually get like an education from her on impressions and like what it means about the system and algorithms. And that was something that I found very valuable. I got, Tara LaFon. I did a couple of days with her brand ambassadorship program where I ended up going into this event and I was learning about LinkedIn, how to use the platform, better ways to understand it. Like everybody's got a bunch of advice, right? And you need to find out whose advice you like and make it your own and get involved and start getting in the game. So, Brewski, everybody knows now what that popcorn gang means and sees that symbol and they understand it. The way I relate it to is the comments, the outreach are all the breadcrumbs that you're leaving behind for Hansel and Gretel to come back to that house. And you're trying to get them back to meet you in a place, right? So I like to say engage is the rage. Tara Hortzmeyer, she likes to say, like she says, the party's in the comments. So that's why we got that little logo floating around where there's a comment party. But yeah, it's getting involved. Get your butt off the wall. Start engaging. Start showing up as who you are. Don't worry about what others think, because really at the end of the day, the only person that matters on what they think about themselves is you. It's the man in the mirror. So get out there, start doing that, and find communities like Whiskey Wednesday, Thursday Night Sales, social, B2B Power Hour. And there's so many great people out here on this platform. Our boy James Perry, willing to have a conversation with people about LinkedIn. And look what this dude is doing. He's taking off and he's getting so many brand ambassadorships. There's so much opportunity on LinkedIn that people are not taking advantage of it. Right now, there's a gold rush on LinkedIn. The people that are out there performing right now are the early settlers that are out there mining that river, getting all the gold, reaping all the benefits. You're going to be late to the game. You're going to be that person that's going to go, I wish I would have invested in Apple stock. You know what I mean? Start investing in yourself. Start getting involved with everybody out there. And if you don't want to show up in their comments, or if you don't want to post, fine. Find what works for you. One of the things that I started doing is like, I found people and then I started seeing they had a podcast and I started listening to episodes that they were involved in. Jen Allen, that's my girl. Like, there's so much growth that happened by listening to her podcast. And because there was new guests on that podcast every time, like the people that ended up making an impact, I would reach out to them, send them a connection, and tell them like what I appreciated about them that they said on that episode. Whether or not they read it, great, fine. You're busy. I'm nobody to them. I don't deserve a response, like, to be truthfully honest. But those that took the time to respond, I really appreciate it. There's a lot of people that actually showed up on that episode, on that podcast, that gave a lot of great information. But I never would have found her without going to Whiskey Wednesday. And I never would have found Whiskey Wednesday if I didn't go to Aspireship. And I never would have found Aspireship if I didn't meet Jake Thibodeau. And I never would have met Jake Thibodeau if I didn't get laid off. So like layoffs are going to happen. The sky is falling. Your eyes are going to get negative. Man, there's so much damn opportunity out there. You just got to open your eyes and look at all this stuff that's going on. And you got to dive deep. And you will find your tribe out there. And they're going to support you beyond belief. I went from like 200 connections in October to wherever I'm at now. And I know I have a couple thousand people out there that are in my community. And I'm still trying to bridge gaps and bring other people together and point out people that are up and coming, because I'm a big fan that you need to surround yourself with fountains and not drains.
That's one of my favorite Raleigh quotes ever. And man, there's going to be a few sound bits that we're going to grab out of that. No, seriously, out of that latest soliloquy there. So many huge shout outs. But to your point, we obviously don't have time to recap every single thing that you said and dig into it. But man, getting out there in the comments first and foremost and showing up and being supportive of others, unfathomably valuable. There are extremely valuable communities. There are extremely intelligent and ahead of the curve people that you could learn from every single day for free. And all you have to do is show up and support. But, you know, the one common thread that I'm hearing through everything that you're saying is that you got to take the action. Yeah. None of this happens if you're sitting around on the sidelines and you're waiting for it to come to you. Fortune favors the bold, as we've all always heard. And Riley, you, my friend, are bold. That's how you and I got connected. And now, obviously, we're good friends and we'll continue to go down that path. And I could go on and on about this all day long, but I really would love to keep pulling on this thread of taking action, because we obviously have some B2B sellers that are listening right now. And if they're still listening, they're getting some huge value off of what you're saying. What would be the biggest takeaway that you would give the B2B sellers?
Oh, man. If you see somebody post something on LinkedIn that says it's dead, try it for yourself. It's probably not dead. It may have not worked for them, and that's completely fine. What's good for the goose may not be good for the gander. You got to figure out what works for you. So all these people that are out there sharing cold calling's dead, emailing's dead, what were they doing? How were they cold calling? How many times did they cold call that person? I'm a big fan of cold calling. There's speed in the phones. Guess what? I'm going to pick up the phone, give you a call. You hang up, you don't answer. Oh, well, I'm moving on. I already forgot about that. I just keep looking forward. And the next call that I'm on, I'm trying to perform like it's opening day for Broadway, baby. So every time I'm on a call, and I'm not trying to pitch them, I'm just trying to connect with them, give them a presentation, give them a conversation, I should say, that relates to them, that makes them want to go, hey, let's have this call. So one thing I'm going to drop. Earlier this week, I get on the phone, I give a call to a company. I'm talking to the HR guy. At the end of the call, he's offering me a job while we're on this phone call, while I'm trying to sell him a human capital management system. He was so pumped that he offered to book a meeting with me, with my SE, to get a demo based on this platform. Just having this conversation. So when you want to figure out what to do and something's dead, take action and find out for yourself. Don't try once, twice, 3 times, whatever the magic number is, 13, 14, 15. I can tell you this, there's no such thing as a damn magic number, because right place, right time, that's going to happen. So if you're not liking the results that you're having, put more effort behind it. And when I say more effort, like, be wise about the time that you're utilizing. Don't believe that you're busy because you're being productive by distracting yourself with meetings and emails and calls. Make sure those meetings and emails and calls have value. Make sure that there's quality in them. Because if you put your time in, which is one of the greatest resources that we all have, and we all have 24 hours, and you make sure that it's filled with quality, you are going to come out ahead in the end. So when people are looking at what should I do to be able to get my next number, it's not drive like bigger engagement. It's not email more people and blast more people and cold call more people. Like, are you cold calling the right people? Are you even calling numbers that are valid? Are you emailing people that actually have the ability to make a decision? If you're not, then you're wasting your time and procrastinating. But if you're calling the right people, eventually your time is going to line up. And if you get them on the phone and they're not interested, that's fine. Ask them a simple question. And again, like I said, I love Jen Allen. Out of curiosity, how often do you guys review this?
Freaking love that, man. Sorry, I was like I was just so in a daze because I mean, you're so spot on with all of that. There's no ultimatums. There is no, this is always the right way, and there's no, this is always the wrong way. It's you take it for yourself, you test it, you see what works for you, and then you move forward based on that. That's a perfect place to cut it because that is advice that even if you're not in sales, that's advice that you could go and take out and take into your daily role and take into your relationships and take to your family, right? Like figure out what works for you through experimentation, not someone else telling you, hey, this is the way, and you just follow them blindly. Riley, this has been a blast. I really can't wait to release this one. This has been so much fun, and there has been so many invaluable pieces of advice that you shared. Before we jump here, why don't you plug something with the audience, because you're out there, you are in the arena, you're putting in the action every day. Where can people find you? What are you working on? Give us the plug.
I am working on failing more often and learning from those scrapes and bruises. I'm working on supporting other people, helping them find success in their journey. I'm working on bridging communities together. I'm working on supporting others and cheering on others to help them get their victories. And I'm also working on continuing to share like kind messages to people to like spark their day. Like just like a simple message. It doesn't have to be anything wild, but something like that. So if you really want to find me, I'm in LinkedIn in the comment sections. I'm posting 5 to 6 days a week, maybe 3 to 4, I don't know. But I'm not posting anymore on Sundays. Sunday is support Sundays. That's where I'm out there supporting and commenting on other people's posts. So if you want me to support and comment on your posts, shoot me a DM. I'll come through sliding in like Tarzan, and I'll come crash that post. Like, I'm happy to support people any way possible.
You heard it here you heard it here first, folks. You know where to find Riley. He's on LinkedIn. He's in the comments. He's supporting others. He's here to cheer. Man, I can't say enough good things. Whenever you announce your presidential bid, like I told you, I'll be there. I'll door-to-door canvas. I'll make it happen. We'll keep it rolling. But man, Riley, this has been an absolute blast. Seriously can't say enough good things. I know that somebody out there really, really got a lot of value from this. So thanks for taking a few minutes of your time today. Sales Stories in Real Life, fam. We will see you again next week.
Cheers. Popcorn gang. Let's go.
Let's go.